So, folks, we got to talk about the fact that the Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos, which in the past, um, you know, obviously loomed over the Washington Post's reporting. But ever since Trump came back into office, Jeff Bezos, you can feel his hand operating through the paper to protect billionaire interests. And I mean, it's not difficult here to see why. I think maybe the best and most obvious vehicle of this so far has been the editorial board opinion section, which is just the editorial board of the Washington Post refuses to put any actual names on opinions and throws them out there. And I gotta be honest with you, I have a sneaking suspicion that it's just Jeff Bezos with like ChatGPT or something, because it's a bit on the nose, right? Working overtime to rip off taxpayers. Past reforms limited pension spiking in New York. Government unions are trying to undo them. Those greedy bastards. Those greedy unionized workers who have the audacity to want to make sure their pensions are protected. Like, government unions in New York want to repeal state-level reforms made in 2009 and 2012 that limited the practice of pension spiking, where workers load up on overtime at the end of their careers to juice retirement payouts. Some workers end up with pensions larger than their salaries, according to a new report from the Albany-based Empire Center for Public Policy. And I just want to throw out there, if they've done the work and earned their pension, they should get that pension. And it's telling here that the Washington Post is really, really, really concerned about, workers taking advantage of overtime by, working beyond their normal hours. Essentially a way to incentivize workers to do work outside of normally scheduled business hours. And they want to single out the unions, right? But oddly enough, it's never, ever the cop unions. It is never, ever, ever like police are taking too much money in overtime. It's never cut the police budget because so much of the police budget is going to pensions for, state or federal employees who worked overtime in law enforcement. And so I just throw this out there because there's a general thrust here to what is happening when it comes to the Washington Post editorial board. For example, this one, by the way, all of these, this particular one, this first one I showed you is from May 6th. This one is also from May 6th. Zohran Mamdani's creepy and weird attack on success. To put any citizen in harm's way is just inappropriate for one of our political leaders. What on earth could Zohran Mamdani have done? Did Zohran Mamdani, were you flipping a loaded gun in front of a crowd? You put all of their lives at risk with your dangerous stunts? Why, whatever could this mean? Let's take a look. New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani has been scrambling to come up with money to fund a major expansion of city government, and he has put the politics of envy at the center of his effort. This is bound to be a fiscal failure, but it's already a moral one. Last month, the social media savvy socialist filmed a video outside New York home of billionaire Ken Griffin. He told viewers who lived there and declared, "We're taxing the rich." Why pick on a hedge fund manager? Okay? Cue Sarah McLachlan music. Have you been too mean to the billionaire hedge fund managers in your life? Have you never stood and thought to yourself, what about the rich? Shouldn't they be getting more? How could this poor hedge fund manager ever make ends meet without our assistance? There are very few people who are so over-leveraged, so buried under debt that they are having everything running on one last big bet while all ramped up on cocaine and cocaine accessories. The rich, they're stressed out. They're overworked. They're high on a million different drugs just to make it through their next big bet on Wall Street. And you know what? It's a really stressful job because they're playing not with their own money, but with all of your money, the Mimas and the Pop Pops. It's a stressful job. And if they lose it all, then they'll just get one of their millionaire or billionaire friends to reinvest in them again. But that would be embarrassing in the cocktail circuit. I will remember you, but will you remember me? Remember, folks, when you're falling asleep tonight, shed a tear for the poor, beleaguered, much maligned billionaire class that Zohran Mandani has cruelly targeted in his campaign of terror.
I had a former coworker who literally thought the rich deserved the most, because they created the most and everyone else were ungrateful and lazy.
Man, it is incredible how cucked some people are, right? Also, Mackenzie, thank you for the Mackenzie L, thank you for the $5 super chat. There are some people who genuinely are like, well, billionaires are my betters, though. They are inherently better than me and inherently work 5 million times harder than I do, which is why they are worth 5 million times my net worth. And it's just like, I can't imagine a more pathetic framing of yourself in the grand scheme of things, you know? But yeah, basically this entire piece is whining about the fact that Zohran Mamdani filmed a social media post outside of a millionaire's, I believe it's $250 million penthouse mansion. Like, he's saying tax the rich because this guy has multiple houses. The entire point of Zoran's proposed tax is on people who have more than one home, who own multiple houses worth over $5 million. Like, this isn't, to my knowledge, this isn't even this guy's only home. But they are all acting like it is just an insane attack on one of New York City's humble billionaires. And it's just like, go fuck yourselves. But you can kind of see now, right? Like, the thrust here of the new Washington Post editorial board is, they got a bone to pick with empowering the working class, right? Like, here's another one. This one is from May 5th. Are government-run grocery stores coming to D.C.? The socialist candidate for mayor has opposed cracking down on shoplifting, which is the root cause of the food deserts she wants to solve. I gotta be honest here. This one in particular infuriates me as somebody from the Midwest who sees like the effects of food deserts, where like if your local grocery store closes, you're suddenly shit out of luck and you have to drive like an hour and a half to go get groceries. You know? Like, if your local grocery store goes under, suddenly you got nothing. You just gotta drive as long as you got, or you eat out of the gas station, what is available at the gas station. Okay? And it's insane. And I can tell you this, how to put it, grocery stores in the Midwest don't close because of shoplifting. They close because companies like Walmart say, it's actually just not profitable enough to have this store going out in the middle of nowhere after they've run all of the mom and pop stores and grocery stores out of business.
Fun fact, most million-dollar apartments in New York have never been lived in and are owned as a status symbol. I'm not against taxing those. Jeff is.
No normal person is against, like, taxing millionaires who have more than one home worth over $5 million. No normal person is against that idea, because no normal person is like, well, but if I have multiple homes that are worth over $5 million, this will put me in the poverty house. Like, that's just not, no one thinks like that. Only billionaires think like that. Only, like, rich assholes think like that. So my point being that grocery stores out in rural America in the Midwest don't fail because of shoplifting. They fail because corporations worth billions of dollars look at a given store and say, well, it's not making us enough money, as much money as we want, right? Because they want all the money. And great examples of this, by the way, have been the claims in the past that essentially, you know, organized retail theft was killing CVS or Walgreens. And then it came out in the earnings call that actually organized retail theft wasn't an issue at all. They had been making it up the entire time. And in fact, the real issue was that they weren't making enough money overall. Like their sales were going up, their profits were going up, but they closed the locations so that they could put new stores in locations that were more trafficked nearby. It was a way to optimize their income streams, not to serve people, right? And the issue of like food deserts in inner cities is much the same, which is that these stores don't view it as profitable to sell to, you know, poor people, essentially, right? And that's how you get kind of this chain or food chain, if you will, of different retailers when it comes to serving different communities, right? How this kind of happens is you get like a Walmart comes in, it runs the mom and pop grocery store out of business by deliberately undercutting their prices in a way that, you know, mom and pop can't really compete with. But eventually, you know, there is an oversaturation of Walmarts, right? And it just doesn't make sense to open a new Walmart to cover some of the gaps in the geography, as it were, right? In that case, you then have bottom feeders, right? Which would be, you know, the Dollar General. You know, you get these stores that are effectively siphoning up. And Dollar General has described their business model as effectively if Walmart is going after someone, the people who have like $35 in their pocket, Dollar General is going after folks who have $5 in their pocket, right? And so essentially you get like this breakdown further and further, but there is a point at which even Dollar General doesn't find it profitable enough to open a store to cover their gaps. And that's where you start getting things like food deserts, where the financials and like the placements of stores like Dollar General just don't make sense when your goal is to make all of the money, not just some of the money, right? This entire article is fear mongering about the idea that like, what, you can't expect cities to have grocery stores. And like, I can tell you again, as somebody in the Midwest, there are absolutely municipally owned grocery stores that work in towns of like 500 people, sometimes even towns of like 200 people. And the idea that like, well, a town of like 250 people can run a municipal grocery store, but not Washington, D.C., it's just fear-mongering bullshit. And it's fear-mongering bullshit specifically to serve the interests of the wealthy who do not want to be competing with a municipal grocery store, right? Because the issue is a municipal grocery store doesn't need to have profits because its purpose is to feed people at a low cost. And that low cost is not necessarily competitive when you are going up against, or is rather very competitive when going up against companies that have inflated prices to fleece you, to take more of your money, right? It hurts the shareholders, and you know, Jeff Bezos wouldn't want to lose shareholders as he's trying to push things like Whole Foods into various communities. So, all that said, you know, how bad could this Washington Post editorial board really be? You know? Oh, they're just straight up going out and saying, actually, tech companies are the brave ones for standing up to their workforce. The brave tech billionaires finally standing up to the overly powerful tech activists who work for them. It's genuinely really stupid. It's like, this is straight up an editorial board piece that is just saying it's great to crush unions, it's great to destroy worker power, because workers shouldn't be able to make demands of their tech billionaire bosses. Written by employees at a company run and owned by a tech billionaire. Like, it's genuinely wild. I mean, like, you get into this and after helping win the Cold War, many technology developers came to see themselves more as citizens of the world than the US. Some preferred pirate flags to the stars and stripes. That ethos curdled at times into resistance to working with the US government to strengthen national security. Consider Google. In 2018, the Pentagon contracted with the search giant to work on Project Maven, which used artificial intelligence to analyze drone surveillance footage. Roughly 4,000 employees signed a petition opposing this work, and at least a dozen resigned. Google executives buckled, declining to renew the contract, publishing a set of AI principles, and pledging not to build weapons or surveillance technology. Palantir happily stepped in, and Maven went on to become a cornerstone of the Pentagon's AI-driven targeting infrastructure. Google's short-sightedness led to Palantir's windfall. It also taught a lasting lesson to the military. Silicon Valley idealism risks pulling the rug out from underneath vital programs. Like, it's genuinely just, you don't want to be short-sighted like Google, do you? And I'm like, it's flabbergasting how pro-billionaire these pieces are. You wouldn't want regulation on these tech companies, would you? That would be socialism and dangerous. It's so transparently awful how they are basically every day writing a piece that's like just calling you guys filthy poor people to your faces, and arguing that the unwashed masses should have no say in the world these brilliant tech engineers and billionaires are building, you know? Oh no, a 1% tax on billionaires, now they're gonna starve. Except that article would be like, if you put a 1% tax on billionaires, all of you poors are going to starve. It would just be a straight up threat, right? I'm not even kidding. This is from May 3rd. California already losing with billionaire tax referendum. The tax hasn't even been passed yet, and the editorial board is trying to argue that the
I used to work in tech, and the tech
state
industry
is
a
buckling.
nightmare. The job market for it is a dumpster fire. Tech billionaires are ruining a beautiful environment that women made.
It's true. It's true. There were a lot of great things about the burgeoning tech industry that have largely been stifled, and it's awful to see. Also, Natalie's Cyber Tips, thank you for the $10 super chat. Man, some of this is unbelievable. New studies forecast a costly cascading effect as family offices leave, philanthropy gets redirected to other states, and startups choose to launch in less hostile environs. The union sponsoring the initiative asserts that California is such a special place for its 200-plus billionaires that it's unlikely that a one-time emergency tax will motivate these folks to leave. Alas, reality already begs to differ. The billionaire exodus has accelerated, including big names like Larry Page, Sergey Brin, Mark Zuckerberg, and Peter Thiel. I'm just really curious here. I Googled, how many homes does Mark Zuckerberg own in California? Just in California, not total. I'm just curious how, he's moved away. He doesn't even live there anymore. This article was the first one to come up. Mark Zuckerberg owns 11 Palo Alto homes. What it's really like to be his neighbor. Or what's it really like to be his neighbor? He moved away so hard that he still owns 11 homes in California. Just in the Palo Alto neighborhood itself. Like, it's fucking crazy, dog. These people are so out of touch.
27.
11 in one city, Robert Adset, yes. Also, Storm Corbell, thank you very much for the tier 1 sub. They've all left to live in their 20th homes while they leave behind their 5 other homes.
But Jack, if you tax the billionaires, where will it end? Soon you'll be taxing the trillionaires?
I mean, taxing the trillionaires, all I have to say to that is
Call me daddy.
they should be calling me daddy. Just call it the call me daddy tax. Watch the entire conservosphere implode on itself in rage. You know, they won't be able to get anything done. Their hate boners will be eternal. But also, there's been an interesting thrust to some of the editorial board opinion pieces over the last couple days, which began with this. You can earn $1 billion. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has a low opinion of human potential. And it's basically just railing about, like, actually, you can exploit your employees hard enough to have $1 billion. And that actually is the American dream. And, like, it's genuinely insane. Like, these people are just gone. They do not understand the fundamental human experience anymore. And, like, no one can earn $1 billion. Her point wasn't that you can't have $1 billion, because obviously there are a lot of people who have $1 billion, but you can't earn $1 billion. You don't earn $1 billion when you inherit it. You don't earn $1 billion simply by virtue of owning something and profiting off of other people's work. That's not called earning something. That's called exploitation. That's called luck. This is not earning. But, this came out, and then the other day we covered her talk with the University of Chicago, right? And in that talk, she gave a really interesting answer, right? Many of you might recall this if you watched my, 2.5-hour segment on it. But essentially, when asked if she was going to run for president, her response was she is essentially not going to be cowed by any kind of billionaire or media hit piece, specifically mentioning this one from the Washington Post editorial board. And also talked about how her goal doesn't rest with any one office, but rather with moving the country towards that more socialist egalitarian future, right? A future that prioritizes the working class, right? And I gotta be honest, I think that the editorial board at the Washington Post took that as a direct challenge, and they're big mad about AOC. I think they're big mad about AOC in particular because they think she's going to run for president, and they're terrified. They are terrified of this extraordinarily popular, powerful, and rhetorically skilled political figure entering the ring and actually making the case for working class people, because they know that she can resonate with folks. And they posted this the other day. Dr. Sayuba, thank you for being a member. Billionaires in New York City were threatening us with good times by saying they would leave if Zohran is elected. They haven't left yet. Yeah. But here you have AOC versus Airbnb. Her contempt for entrepreneurs extends to those who benefit from their products. Like, I'm sorry, you don't write. They are literally putting in the paper right now that they're mad, right? They are putting in the paper right now that they're mad. And I do not think the Washington Post editorial board prioritizes this, either on their own or at the behest of Jeff Bezos, if they do not see her as a national threat. Not just, and I gotta be honest, I think they do see her as a national threat. I don't think that they're worried about her running for Senate. They are deliberately trying to send a message to her, do not run for president, otherwise we will just run hit piece after hit piece after hit piece on you in our paper every day. And I do think that that is the message that they're going for here, right? I mean, this entire opening paragraph. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, D. New York, is on a tear, spinning yarns about the American Revolution being an uprising against the rich, while complaining that the Post is standing in the way of her humble ambition to remake the country as a socialist utopia. We prefer to simply debate policy. Like, they are catty as hell. And I gotta be honest, I don't think you reach this level of catty and petty without a healthy dose of fear motivating your prose. Okay? Like, it is just like, what is the substance of this article, by the way? Here we go. Consider AOC's recent criticism of Airbnb. The legislator received blowback after telling a millionaire friend that all billionaires come by their wealth illegitimately. She then pointed to the short-term home rental platform as an example of how a service that millions of people like to use is actually harmful to society. Yes, services that people like can be harmful. People like driving cars. Driving cars can get you killed. Car accidents are a huge driving cause of death in the United States. People still drive. Like, a lot of people engaged in incredibly harmful practices in the past in the United States. They acknowledged it was harmful and they did it anyway. Those people, the founding fathers, who owned slaves, even as they opined about the ethicality of owning slaves. Like, right now, there are people who love Kalshi. There are people who love other, like, sports betting-ified political websites.
Live from the Polymarket studio in LA.
There are people who love that, and it's destroying society. It's destroying the information ecosystem that we rely on to make decisions, and it's destroying people's finances systematically. It's very clear what's happening here, and they have fabricated a pretext upon which to attack AOC to try and send the message, desperately, do not run for president. Please, for the love of God, do not run for president. And I think that this entire anti-working class tear that the I keep wanting to say Wall Street Journal, Washington Post editorial board has been on, I think it's revealing. I think it is revealing specifically because they know that this is the kind of messaging that can work in the moment we're in. This is where we're at as a society. And there are not enough political figures who are willing to full-throatedly support this particular direction, being pro-working class, being pro, normal Americans. But she's one of the few out there doing it, and they're going to do their damnedest to stop her. But I think if she runs, she can do some cooking, She can absolutely snap them like twigs. And I'm really, really excited to see what she's going to do. She's the most popular Democrat out there, full stop. She's the most popular Democrat within the Democratic Party to people who vote in the primaries. And she's one of the most popular Democrats in the entire country, period. So both of these things line up where she actually has a pretty valid shot right now, especially if she can speak to the problems of working people, which she absolutely can and does. And I think she actually has a shot of being able to win this if she does decide to run. And she should. Everyone knows her. She has like national name recognition out the wazoo. She has more name recognition than just about any other Democrat in the Democratic Party. It turns out that's one of the most useful things to have if you're running for president. So, all that being said, folks, if you want to be part of building whatever movement we need right now to defeat the Washington Post editorial board specifically, join your local Dems, join your local DSA, push your Dems farther left, make them more progressive, make them more pro-working class people, make them unable to sell you and your fellow constituents out to billionaire donors. You can do that if you get involved. If you are in the room, you can do that. So join your local Dems, join your local DSA. When you're organize local labor, okay? Make your DSA more effective, make your Dems more progressive, okay? That's the name of the game. We need to be taking over the Democratic Party, wrestling the controls away from these establishment pigs that are not going to do anything as our country falls apart. All right? So, all of that being said, if you got anything out of this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment. Comments longer than 8 words really help in the algorithm. And check out ImogeneOlivia.com, gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes, also tested with cis women, cis men, non-binary folks. Go check it out, ImogeneOlivia.com. It's non-tucking lingerie, and it's sexy as hell. Go check it out, ImogeneOlivia.com. Link down in the description. Let's keep on going.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and switchy streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, being plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.